Stop it! Come back! They're stealing our clothes!
What was it you said you were going to do when we hit town, John?
10 Westerns of 1957. A strong year with around 75 Westerns in 1957. That's more than one a week. No wonder boys ran to their local cinemas every week to follow their favourite Western stars. With names like Henry Ford, Alan Ladd and Burt Lancaster. Another year when John Wayne didn't make a Western. Won't get them all in this video. Let me know in the comments what your favourite was. If you enjoy this video, hit the notification button to get my new videos. If you want to check out my many others, head over to my channel. The link is in the description. Like, share and subscribe. You know the drill. Appreciate it, really. Let's get into it. The Big Land, a Western directed by Gordon Douglas, starring Alan Ladd, Virginia Mayo and Edmund O'Brien. Back home in Texas, following the Civil War, former Confederate officer Chad Morgan, Alan Ladd, leads a cattle drive to Missouri, assuring fellow ranchers that their stock will bring $20 a head at auction. Instead, ruthless cattle baron, Brog, Anthony Caruso, has scared off all the competition and offers $1.50 a head for the half-starved Longhorns, who had little good grazing along the trail. Chad had enough of violence during the war and chooses not to confront Brog, a skillful gunfighter, who wounds one of Chad's companions. Decision at Sundown, a Western directed by Bud Bowditcher, starring Randolph Scott. It is one of the 7 Bowditcher-Scott Western collaborations, including 7 Men from Now, The Tall T, Buchanan Rides Alone, Westbound, Ride Lonesome, and Comanche Station. Bowditcher said this film and Westbound were the only mediocre films he made as part of the Renown cycle.
I'll tell you something about Mary. She wasn't the girl you thought she was, and Tate Kimbrough, he wasn't the first man. You Texan!
Allison, this what you've been waiting 3 years for?
Gunfight at the OK Corral, a Western starring Burt Lancaster as Wyatt Earp and Kirk Douglas as Doc Holliday, and loosely based on the actual event in 1881, directed by John Sturges, from a screenplay written by novelist Leon Uris. It was a remake of the 1939 film Frontier Marshal, starring Randolph Scott, and of John Ford's 1946 film My Darling Clementine.
Come on, keep moving, all of you.
All right, Doc. We ain't finished. Come to think of it, he's no gentleman at all. He's the son of a yellow-bellied sow.
All right, Doc. Let's go. Ike wants to talk to you alone. He's unarmed.
Wait a minute, Wyatt. Kate told me about the killing of your brother. It was the Clantons, all right. And you were in on it.
I had nothing to do with it.
Get back where you belong.
Believe me, Wyatt, if...
Get back with your friends.
The Guns of Fort Petticoat, a Western produced by Harry Joe Brown and Audie Murphy for Brown Murphy Pictures, based on the 1955 short story Petticoat Brigade by Chester William Harrison, that he expanded into a novelization for the film's release, directed by George Marshall. The fictional story tells the tale of an army deserter training a disparate group of women to become Indian fighters, climaxing in a Battle of the Alamo type action.
I'm sorry.
You're right. How are you holding up, McCaster?
Indians! Everybody to their posts! Hey! Now on the other side!
I say we stay here. All of them. Miss Hannah, I appoint you sergeant and second in command. Pick yourself a couple of corporals.
The Lonely Man, a western directed by Henry Levine and written by Harry Essex and Robert Smith, based on the true life of Kiwi Ben Clark. Stars Jack Palance, Anthony Perkins, Elaine Aiken, Neville Brand, Robert Middleton, Alicia Cook Jr., Claude Akins, and Lee Van Cleef. The film was released on June 21, 1957 by Paramount Pictures. Riley Wade hates his gunfighter father, Jacob, for deserting Riley's mother, who then committed suicide. Jacob rides to Red Bluff, hoping to reconcile with his son, unaware that King Fisher holds a grudge and intends to shoot down Jacob, first chance. Night Passage, a western directed by James Nielsen, starring James Stewart and Audie Murphy. On the way to meet his former boss, railroad tycoon Ben Kimball, Grant McLean rescues a young boy, Joey Adams, from villain Concho. Ben informs Grant that his payroll has been robbed 3 times already by a gang led by Whitey Harbin and the Utica Kid. If Ben's workers do not get paid soon, they will all leave the end-of-track work camp. Over the objections of Kimball's number 2, Jeff Kurth, Grant accepts the undercover job of carrying $10,000 to the crew by train. Kurth bets his job that Grant will fail.
Joey? Why do you want him?
Maybe for the good of his soul. It's been a long time since you heard that word.
Shootout at Medicine Bend, a western directed by Richard L. Barr, starring Randolph Scott, James Craig, Angie Dickinson, and James Garner. James Garner, who had a small role, said, "It was always fun working with Dick Barr, and Randy Scott was an old pro, but the movie isn't worth a damn." Captain Buck Devlin and cavalry troopers Sergeant John Maitland and Private Wilbur Clegg, recently mustered out of the army, head to Devlin's brother's homestead to settle down. They arrive just in time to drive off an Indian attack, but are too late to save his brother. Faulty ammunition cost him his life. The 3 men set out for Medicine Bend to find out who sold the ammunition. The community also gives them all their funds to buy badly needed supplies.
Thee hath been set upon by thieves. Took everything we had.
Hey, this is quite a place. What do we do now, Captain?
Look up the sheriff and try to get our money back.
Hello, boys. Come on in and have a drink in the house.
That's for me.
We do. We thank thee, but we must refuse thy kind offer.
The Tall Stranger, a western directed by Thomas Carr, starring Joel McRae and Virginia Mayo. It is based on the novel of the same name by Louis L'Amour. Former Union soldier Ned Bannon is shot in his side and left for dead while returning home at the end of the Civil War. He wakes up in a wagon several days later. The wagon belongs to widow Ellen, who, with her son Will, is part of a wagon train of Confederate homesteaders. The settlers are concerned that whoever shot Bannon might return to finish the job. Some, Pagonez in particular, are also ill-disposed to a Yankee. When questioned, Bannon tells them that just before he was shot, he had spotted a small mob of cattle and some drovers. The only thing he remembers about his attacker was some fancy spurs and his gold-plated rifle.
All for the taking, is that what you said? Did I, Mr. Bannon?
Thank you.
But just one thing doesn't figure. You being alone all this time. Like I said, you're not the type. You're a man's woman.
3:10 to Yuma, a western directed by Delmer Daves, starring Glenn Ford and Van Heflin, based on a 1935 short story of the same name by Elmore Leonard. The plot concerns an impoverished rancher who takes on the risky job of escorting a notorious outlaw to justice. The film was remade in 2007, directed by James Mangold, and starring Russell Crowe with Christian Bale. The title song, The 3:10 to Yuma, was written by George Dunning, music, and Ned Washington, lyrics, and sung at the beginning and end of the film by the noted Western and country music singer Frankie Laine, who also did several other popular Western film and TV series musical theme songs.
I told you before to shut up. Now you say just one more word and I'll cut you down.
End of the line, mister.
Three Violent People, a western directed by Rudolph Mattei, starring Charlton Heston, Ann Baxter, Gilbert Roland, Tom Tyrone, Forrest Tucker, Bruce Bennett, and Elaine Stritch. Former Confederate cavalryman Captain Colt Saunders comes home to Texas from the war. Carpetbaggers have taken control of his town, including a corrupt Yankee tax commissioner named Harrison and his deputy, Cable. When he sees a Yankee insult a Southern belle named Lorna Hunter, the gallant Colt comes to her aid. He isn't aware of her past as a St. Louis dancehall girl, prostitute, or her devious gold-digging nature. Colt is knocked cold, and Lorna takes him back to his room, where she steals $900 from him. Her former employer, saloon owner Ruby LaSalle, lets her know that Colt is a wealthy rancher, so Lorne hatches the scheme. She returns his missing $900 and impresses him with her honesty. Colt falls in love and marries her. Oh, what the heck, one more for the trail. The Tin Star, a western directed by Anthony Mann, starring Henry Fonda and Anthony Perkins, in one of Perkins' first roles. The film became one of the few low-budget westerns to be nominated for the Oscar for Best Writing, Story or Screenplay. Since its release, the film has become one of the classics of the genre. The supporting cast features Betsy Palmer, Neville Brand, John McIntyre, and Lee Van Cleef. I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know what you think in the comments. I appreciate your likes and subscribers. Hit the notification bell to get my new videos. Take a look at my channel and check out my Facebook page. The links are in the description. I am Wrangler. Bye for now. See you again soon.
Interesting facts about famous people.